The desert night stretched like an endless silk tapestry over the land, a silver moon tracing shadows across the sand dunes. Inside the small adobe dwelling, the air trembled with anticipation, delicate as the brush of silk against skin. Alina Torres, a young woman of gentle grace and golden brown hair braided with wildflowers, sat stiffly on the edge of her new bed. Her heart beat wildly, not from fear alone, but from the uncertainty of what awaited her. Tonight, she would meet him. The man her stepmother had decreed as her husband, a feared Apache warrior whose name alone had caused whispers, to die in the streets. Dakota Blackfeather. Alina's fingers trembled as she smoothed the folds of her ceremonial gown. Her stepmother's cruel smile still haunted her memory, a reminder of the injustice that had brought her here. "He will be merciful, my child," her stepmother had said, though no warmth touched her words. But Alina knew the truth. Tokada was rumored as fierce and untamable as the desert wind, and yet there was something in the stories that spoke not just of fear, but of honor and a strange, silent kindness that only a few had glimpsed. The door creaked, and in the shadows he appeared. Dakota's presence filled the room like the steady pulse of the earth itself. Broad-shouldered and silent, his eyes dark, penetrating yet tender, found hers. For a moment the world stilled. Alina felt an inexplicable pull, a thread connecting her to this man who was supposed to be her punishment. He spoke not a word, yet the curve of his lips hinted at a respect that belied the rumors, a gentleness that defied the tales of terror. "Alina," he finally said, his voice low, deliberate, carrying the warmth of firelight and the weight of unspoken promises. She swallowed, feeling the rush of something she had never expected, and odd, fragile hope. In that quiet, suspended moment, two hearts began a silent conversation, one born not of obligation but of something far deeper, almost sacred. And as the night deepened, a first brush of hands across trembling fingers sparked a tension that was neither fear nor shame, but the first whisper of love. A love that, unbeknownst to both, was destined to grow stronger than the cruelest of fates. The morning sun spilled gold across the desert horizon, brushing the adobe walls with warmth and light. Alina awoke to the quiet rhythm of Dakota's movements, the soft scrape of boots on the wooden floor, the distant clatter of water being drawn from the well. She had expected fear, anger, even cruelty, but instead, she found a patient, almost reverent presence. Tokada prepared a simple breakfast of cornmeal porridge and dried fruit, his hands sure and careful, as if every motion were a ritual. When he offered her a bowl, their fingers brushed lightly, a fleeting touch, yet it sent a shiver through her, tender and unclaimed by fear. "Eat," he said softly, his eyes lingering on hers, as though measuring the storm of emotions that swirled behind them both. Days passed, slowly, each measured by the routines of desert life. Alina learned to ride beside Dakota on the wide, sun-bleached plains, the wind tangling her hair, the horse's hooves drumming against the sand like a heartbeat. She learned of his people, their traditions, the songs that carried memories of ancestors through the canyon walls. And Dakota, in turn, listened to her stories of the small village she had grown up in, of her mother's love and her stepmother's bitterness. At night, when the desert sky unfolded in a galaxy of stars, they sat together by the fire, sharing silence as much as words. Dakota taught her the language of constellations, the sacred stories of courage, of honor, of enduring love. Alina's heart, once bound in fear and obligation, began to soften. She glimpsed not just the warrior the world whispered about, but the man who carried an ocean of loyalty and a quiet, unyielding devotion. Yet, in the tender moments, the shadow of her past lingered. Her stepmother's betrayal, the cruel hand that had sent her here, was a wound she had yet to speak aloud. Dakota, perceptive and gentle, never pressed. He allowed her time, space, and the growing knowledge that she was seen not as a possession, but as a person worthy of trust and love. One evening, as the sun dipped low and the horizon bled amber, Dakota took her hands in his. "I will not hurt you, Alina," he whispered, voice trembling with an honesty that startled her. "I only wish to protect you, to honor you. Whatever your past holds, we face it together." And in that vow, spoken with the gravity of desert winds and mountains that had stood for centuries, Alina felt a spark of something she had thought impossible: hope. The walls between them were fragile now, just whispers of fear left behind. And beneath the quiet desert sky, a bond began to grow, steady and utterly unbreakable. Weeks turned into months, yet in the quiet rhythm of desert life, time felt suspended. Alina had learned to move not just beside Dakota, but with him riding through wind-swept canyons, tending to the small garden he cultivated with patient hands, listening to the distant call of coyotes under moonlight. What had begun as fear and obligation had now softened into a tender, unspoken affection. Dakota was no longer just the feared Apache warrior whispered about in hushed tones. He was a protector, a listener, a man whose eyes held both the weight of the past and the gentle warmth of devotion. He would wake before dawn to bring her water, share stories of the stars, or simply sit in silence, letting the desert's vastness cradle them together. And Alina, once guarded, began to speak freely, her laughter spilling across the adobe walls, her hand brushing his with ease, her presence a light he seemed to have waited for all his life. Yet, even in these moments of quiet joy, there was a shadow neither could name. Dakota's thoughts occasionally drifted to the hidden scars of her past, and Alina carried the unspoken pain of betrayal, her stepmother's cruel arrangement, the whispered rumors that had forced her into this union. Neither spoke of it openly, but the bond between them was strengthened by trust, patience, and the unspoken vow that love required understanding before desire. One evening, as the sky burned with the colors of sunset, Dakota guided her to a cliff overlooking the vast desert plains. He knelt, not in proposal, but in reverence to the moment itself, holding her hands as if anchoring her to the earth. "Alina," he murmured, "you were given to me under the weight of another's cruelty. But I see you truly, and what I feel for you, it is not a burden, but a gift. I would never ask you to repay it with anything less than your heart." Her eyes brimmed with tears, not of sorrow, but of recognition. For the first time, she understood that love could exist in its purest form, untainted by fear or duty. It could heal, it could protect, it could transform. And in that moment, as the desert winds carried the scent of sage and wildflowers, their hearts began a rhythm of unity, silent promise that neither the past nor any secret could sever. But the past has a way of lingering, hidden in letters, whispered conversations, and memories that refuse to fade. And Alina knew, deep down, that the revelation waiting for her, one that would shape their marriage and test the foundation of their love, was yet to come. The night of their formal wedding arrived quietly, almost reverently. The desert air was cool, scented with sage and desert blooms, and the adobe home glowed softly from lanterns swinging in the wind. Alina adjusted her ceremonial gown, the fabric shimmering like moonlight on sand, while her hands shook not with fear, but with anticipation. For months, she had come to trust Dakota, to love him in a way that felt destined, yet tonight carried a tension she could not yet name. Dakota entered, not with fanfare, but with the steady, grounding presence that had become her anchor. His eyes met hers, warm and unyielding, and he offered her his hand with a quiet dignity. "Are you ready?" he asked, voice low, almost a whisper carried on the desert wind. She nodded, and together they stepped into the room where their vows would intertwine with destiny. It was then, amidst the flickering candlelight and the hush of night, that the hidden truth emerged. A letter, long kept in silence, had been left by her stepmother in an attempt to control even this union. It revealed the bitter plot that had sent Alina to him, that her stepmother had sought revenge. Using Alina's hand in marriage as a punishment for perceived slights, the words burned like fire against Alina's chest, threatening to undo the fragile serenity she had found. Dakota noticed the change immediately, the flicker of pain in her eyes. Without hesitation, he took the letter, read it with deliberate care, and then crushed it between his hands. "Alina," he said, voice unwavering, "your past does not define you. I did not marry you because of someone else's cruelty. I married you because I see your heart, your kindness, your soul. Nothing else matters." Tears streamed down Alina's face, mingling relief with the overwhelming recognition of love's true power. Here was a man who had chosen her freely, who had honored her even when betrayal shadowed her path. The fear that had once defined her entire life was replaced by a profound sense of belonging. In Dakota's arms, she felt not just safety, but the awakening of a love so pure, so steady, that even the harshest injustices could not diminish it. That night, as the desert stretched endlessly around them, their hearts spoke a language words could not capture. Love, trust, and forgiveness entwined in a gentle, unbreakable bond of promise that nothing from the past could touch the life they were beginning together. And in the quiet beneath the starlit sky, Alina whispered the truth she had been afraid to say. "I trust you, completely, always." The desert dawn spilled across the horizon like molten gold, painting the adobe walls with soft light. Alina awoke to the gentle rise and fall of Dakota's chest beside her, the quiet rhythm of his breathing, a melody she had come to know as home. The night's revelations had settled between them, not as shadows, but as stepping stones toward a love deeper than either had imagined. Dakota stirred, brushing a strand of hair from her face, and smiled, not the cautious smile of the past, but one of absolute certainty. "You are safe," he murmured, his voice carrying the weight of a promise kept. Alina reached for his hand, intertwining her fingers with his, and in that simple act, they sealed a covenant neither fear nor past betrayal, nor harsh desert winds could break. Over the days that followed, their lives flowed with a newfound grace. They shared laughter in quiet moments, tending to the small garden, riding across the sun-drenched plains, and speaking in the language of trust and tenderness that only true love can cultivate. Alina's fears had dissolved, replaced by the unwavering certainty that she had been chosen for who she was, not for what others demanded. Dakota's respect and devotion became the foundation of a life filled with quiet joy, strength, and endless wonder. In the evenings, as stars embroidered the vast desert sky, they would sit together in silence, hands entwined, hearts aligned. Alina would recount tales from her childhood, now tinged with laughter instead of sorrow, while Dakota shared the sacred stories of his ancestors, teaching her that love is not only felt, but carried forward, honored and protected. And in these moments, Alina realized the truth she had longed to understand. Love is patient. Love is steadfast, and love transforms even the deepest wounds into beauty. The hardships that had brought them together were no longer a source of pain, but a testament to their resilience and to the power of trust. As the sun dipped behind the dunes, Alina rested her head against Dakota's shoulder, whispering, "I never imagined love could feel like this." He kissed her forehead, a simple gesture heavy with devotion. "It is the love that chooses us, even when life tries to deceive," he replied softly. "And we have chosen it every day together." The desert stretched endlessly before them, yet within its vastness, they had found a world of belonging, forgiveness, and unshakable love. Their story, a tapestry of hardship, trust, and destiny, remained proof that true love endures, not through perfection, but through patience, understanding, and the courage to see one another's soul. And so, beneath the endless sky, Alina and Dakota began their life anew, bound not by circumstance, but by hearts that had chosen each other freely, completely, and eternally. Share your love story in the comments. And remember, true love is always worth waiting for.